Thank you for clarifications from members. Mr. Faisal.
So I would like to thank SPS for her reply. I just want to clarify that because SPS only mentioned about NMP as well as NCMP's appeal is being treated as a kind of a personal appeal. So what about what I've mentioned just now for the PAP party branch chairman? How does MHA, or what was the MHA views of such appeal?
I thank the member for his question. As I mentioned earlier in my reply, the police will consider all proper representations, which include representations from elected MPs and from grassroots advisors on behalf of their own constituents and their grassroots leaders. Thank you.
So I do hear clearly SPS mentioned grassroots advisor and elected members of parliament. But my question is, how does MHA respond to a PAP party branch chairman appeal on behalf of an individual?
Does Mr. Faisal have the letter? And if you do, can you please first check the facts and see if the person was also a GRA? Because police are very clear. They will respond to MPs. They will respond to grassroots advisors. It doesn't matter if they have any other positions. But I think you should check and let us know whether that person is also a grassroots advisor. And I'm sure he would have been. Right? Thank you.
Sir, I can confirm that the person that I mentioned is a grassroots advisor, but the letter that...
That's the answer.
The letter that I have with me, the signatory is of a PAP party branch chairman. It wasn't mentioned any appointment as a grassroots advisor.
The police will respond, like other government agencies, to MPs and grassroots advisors, regardless of any other appointments they may hold. Thank you.
Mr. Peng.
Can I ask the ministry, with regards to my cut, what's the roadmap for Singaporeans with stepchildren in terms of their children getting the PR or citizenship if they cannot be legally adopted, as I've explained in my cut? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, perhaps let me explain why legal adoption is needed in the first place. It is primarily to safeguard the interests of the child and the public. Without legal adoption, there is no biological or legal nexus between a Singaporean step-parent and his foreign stepchild. And that is why we require the adoption, to formally establish the parent-child relationship between them in the eyes of the law. The effect that this has is to put the legal status of the child beyond question. For the child, it clearly establishes that his adoptive parents have legal responsibilities and obligations to care for him. And this is also in our public interest, as there is no ambiguity. Now, because adoption is a serious matter, obviously the process has to be rigorous and effort must be made to ensure that the child's welfare is safeguarded. For the adoption of foreign stepchildren, which Mr. Peng asked about, the Ministry of Social and Family Development already allows for a shorter process, and the Family Justice Courts will also appoint a guardian in adoption to conduct social investigation to assess the prospective adopter's parenting capacity and the family circumstances. Through the investigation, so there is already a roadmap, it's available. Through the investigation, some prospective adopters may be assessed to be unsuitable, and this adoption cannot proceed. Now, others may not be able to adopt their stepchild if the natural parent does not agree to the adoption. And in these circumstances, the law already allows the Family Justice Court to dispense with the requirement if it is the court's judgment that adequate effort has been made, and there is no reason to believe that the natural parent is contesting for the custody of the child. And if the court is satisfied, it has assessed, it can decide to dispense with this requirement. So if I may summarize, the process is there for good reasons, and instead of doing away with the process, I think let us instead help the deserving families to meet the requirements and to allow the court to exercise its judgment.
Mr. Chasing?
Can I ask the minister, currently, is it an offense for someone to know of a friend or family member who is thinking of committing a terrorist act or after being self-radicalized? And is it an offense not to report? And if it's not an offense, what are the policy considerations for not making it an offense? Thanks.
It will be difficult to give and unwise to give a broad answer to a question like this. It depends much on what is it that the person is planning to do and the degree of association, the help or other kind of assistance the person who knows has given. Is it just pure knowledge? Is it something more? I think it depends on a variety of factors. But such a person who knows of a potential terrorist action would be well advised to report to the agencies. And quite a number of the arrests that Internal Security Department has made over the years has in fact been based on reports from family members, friends, others who have noticed that something is not quite right.
Mr. Faisal, if it's a new question, I'll allow it. If it's a question that has already been answered, I'll disallow it. Please proceed.
So one final clarification, sir. So just now it was mentioned that apart from the MPs, elected MPs as well as grassroots appeal, any other appeals has been taken as a personal appeal.
That's correct.
So am I right to say that NCMP appeals, NMP appeals, and a political party branch chairman appeal will also consider as normal appeal, and there's no merits to it? There's no further consideration or special consideration being made or being looked into when this appeal comes from this group of people, as I mentioned just now?
Mr. Faisal, that question has already been answered, but I will allow Mr. Shanmugam to repeat it again.
There are two parts to this. One is, as a government, we try and say, no wrong door. So, if a person is entitled to make an appeal on behalf of somebody, for example, say a grassroots advisor, then if it comes on some other letterhead or he doesn't mention that designation, nevertheless, the agencies will check. If he is a grassroots advisor, then it's a little bit pointless to write back to him and say, and meanwhile time is taken up, or send it to us on a different note, mention your designation, and then we will deal with it. I think that's a very bureaucratic way of dealing with it. We want to try and help the residents. I'm sure so do you. So in order to help the residents, when the person who is writing the appeal comes within the rules, as in he holds an appointment, either as an MP or as a grassroots advisor, the agencies will respond, will deal with it and will respond. Because the interest of the government is also to deal with the appeal in the interest of the residents. At the same time, there have to be some rules on who the agencies will respond to and will not respond to. You can't respond to everybody who purports to write on behalf of somebody else. How do we know if indeed that is so? If he is a grassroots advisor, he is a member of parliament, then we can hold the person responsible for whatever is said. And as Mr. Faisal knows, some of these representations can have legal consequences as well. Any other representation from anyone else will be treated as an individual representation. Now, in terms of the status, the weight that is to be given to appeals, proper appeals, appeals by MPs and grassroots advisors, the facts will be considered, and they will be assessed in accordance with our rules. And as Mr. Faisal will know, sometimes there is a gray area. Often, that's what the person who is writing the appeal letter is trying to do, trying to persuade the agencies that this is a case that comes in a gray area where some discretion ought to be exercised. And the agencies which deal with it, the police, will have to look at it, see whether it is an appropriate case for discretion to be exercised, and deal with it. And it's all put in writing so that everything can be looked at and see whether it conforms to our rules. When the police respond, whether it's yes or no, and where necessary, the reasons are set out so that anyone can look at this and ask further questions.
Okay. If there are, yes, please go ahead.
Minister, you mentioned about Singaporean identity, to have our own Singapore identity, and I would like to quote Minister Indrani last year. She mentioned that what it means to be Singaporean is of particular pertinence as a country heads into its next phase of development. And as such, would it be of merit to have sort of national conversation around what it means to be Singaporean, similar to the style of our Singapore conversation? And second thing I would like to ask is, especially our youth, our Muslim youth, who are easily influenced by external influences, extremist thinking, sort of very black and white sort of preachings from outside Singapore. Would it be of interest to reform the Singapore Muslim Identity Campaign that was launched some time ago by Minister Yaacob? Would it be of interest to bring it back again, to sort of protect our youth and to educate them on some of these, to inoculate them from these influences from outside?
I think the primary essence of your question on how we deal with the ongoing program on Singapore Muslim identity really needs to be answered by the Minister in charge of Muslim Affairs. If I can take one step back, the point you made about young people, young Muslims finding it very appealing to look at black and white preachings. I don't think that is restricted to young Muslim youth or Muslim youth. I think it cuts across many different religions, races, and beyond religion, as you can see from different parts of the world, black and white sound bites are appealing even in very mature democracies. It's much easier to listen to simple sound bites rather than a more reasoned point of thinking, because it takes time to put it across. But we know what the challenges are in terms of the trends that have come across. I've said that in my speech. And we do need not just, it's not restricted to Muslims. I think it cuts across all religions. We need to try and bring them together and ensure that the secular space we have created for politics is there, and at the same time, while one pursues freedom to practice one's religion, we guarantee that at the same time to create and make sure that the common space we have created is maintained. All will have to contribute to that. The different religious organizations, the faiths, people, secular organizations, the government. Thank you.
If there are no further clarifications, Mr. Christopher D'Souza, would you like to withdraw the amendment?
It was an extremely busy 2018 for MHA, and 2019 and 2020 look to be full ones too. I would like to thank the Minister and the Ministers and the SPSs for the comprehensive responses and the productive debate. We would also like to thank the Home Team, including the SPF, SCDF, Police, Coast Guard, Prisons, ICA, for keeping Singapore safe. We sometimes take it for granted, but every now and then it is nice to say a big thank you to the Home Team. With that, Mr. Chairman, I beg leave to withdraw my amendment.
Yeah. Is the member given leave to withdraw the amendment? I think leave of the majority is given. The amendment is withdrawn. The question is that the sum of $5,777,979,300 for head P stand part of the main estimates. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Now the question is that the sum of $978,638,600 for head P stand part of the development estimates. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.